I am Ciancio, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how jargon has an impact on the effectiveness of your communication. So for those of you who don't know me, and as Leslie said, I am the account coordinator on the Tailwind team, and this is actually my first job. And so I'm proud to say that I'm definitely the youngest to be speaking to you all today. I don't know if I'm a Gen Zer or a millennial, because I was born in '96, so it's a little bit of an identity crisis right now. So going back, I graduated from Arizona State University with my bachelor's degree in marketing with a concentration of digital and integrated marketing communication. And in my free time, when I'm not coordinating accounts, I am a creative writer. So one of my first tasks when I came onto the Tailwind team was that I needed to research the latest in digital advertising tracking, the Safari ITP update. And I didn't know anything about this update, so I researched an article and I came across this Digiday article. And as I started reading, I was bombarded with these phrases and terms that made it very difficult for me to understand the message of this article. And I have a degree in this field, so I was just looking at my experience and being like, is there a better way to tell this story? I had to read the article about 3 to 4 times to really understand what the difference between the IPT 2.0 update and the 2.1 update, and it was so convoluted and complicated for me to understand. And then when I was looking at all the phrases that I was kind of getting caught up on, I realized they were all jargon phrases. And so jargon is just special words or expressions that are used by professionals or a certain group that are difficult for people who are not in that group to understand. And so since my experience was so bad, I was like, this is really interesting. I wonder if anyone else out there has or cares about if jargon is an effective tool of communication. And newsflash, a lot of people care. But especially this guy, Dan Pelota. Dan Pelota is an advertiser and a public speaker, and back in 2011, he wrote a blog for the Harvard Business Review called "I Don't Understand What Anyone Is Saying Anymore." And so despite his years of experience, in recent years, Dan was having trouble communicating with his colleagues because everyone was just using so much jargon, they couldn't articulate exactly what they were doing. And so this blog article actually gained so much traction amongst the community that Dan Pelota was invited back by the Harvard Business Review to do an interview with Sarah Green called "Business Jargon is Not a Bad Value." So in his original blog post, Dan breaks down jargon into 3 main categories: abstractions, acronyms, and meaningless expressions. Abstractions, Dan gave the example when he was talking to a colleague that this new colleague just started a brand new company, and she says, and he quotes, that the company is around the idea of children in the preschool space. And Dan just kind of looked at her and said, "You mean preschoolers?" So abstractions is kind of finding a roundabout way to express exactly what you mean instead of saying the exact thing. And then we move on to acronyms, which when I first started at Tailwind, I had to create an Excel spreadsheet for all the acronyms that my team members use on a day-to-day basis. I called this the Tailwind Lingo Guide, and now we actually pass it out to new hires who are not really familiar with the paid media space and the digital advertising. And so I do have a question, because when I was doing my research, I never really realized this, but does anyone know what PDF stands for? Do you want to go, sir? You want to check? It stands for portable document format, which I never really realized that the file formats at the end of the files that I'm sending off to people stand for something. So it kind of just alludes to the fact that jargon, as much as we know it, it may be integrated in our day-to-day lives and we might not realize it. And then and then we have meaningless expressions. Meaningless expressions are just phrases that are overused and commonly expressed that ultimately fall flat. And Dan gives the example of thinking outside the box. When you hear someone say think outside the box, it's supposed to inspire creativity and innovation, but it ends up just kind of saying, we need more ideas, please come up with more ideas. And so when it comes to corporate meaningless expressions specifically is where I like to have a lot of fun. If I ever said to my friends who are not in the corporate space, hey, circle back with me and address the low-hanging fruit later, they're gonna think I wanna go apple picking. Also, a high-level overview, that is just the word summary that went to business school. So Dan and Sarah, in the interview that he does, they explain why, as humans, we like to use jargon. And we think it's the key to demonstrate our professionalism, our intelligence, and ultimately we then do appeal to that niche community that we are trying to relate to. If we use the language and the communication tools that group uses, they ultimately accept us for one of them. But instead what happens when we use jargon, it becomes a barrier to entry for communication. People get lost with all of these phrases you're throwing at them, and they ultimately lose the meaning of what you're trying to communicate to others. So while you may be appealing to that niche audience, you're alienating yourself from anyone who's on the outside who wants to understand and connect with your message, product, brand, or service. So it's not just me and Dan. There's a ton of articles and research out there that shows that jargon is a very ineffective tool of communication, but all of us just can't stop doing it. And so it's important for me, since I am pretty early on in my career path, to understand how I communicate with others and ultimately try to eliminate and minimize the amount of jargon I use. But also as an account coordinator, I need to be able to break down what Tailwind, my colleagues, do on a day-to-day basis for my clients in case they don't understand exactly what is happening in the digital advertising space. And I'm going to do that in 4 ways. So these are 4 things that I learned from my research to kind of minimize the jargon that I use in my day-to-day communication. The first is I'm going to keep it short. If I can say what I need to say in 5 to 6 sentences instead of 10 to 12, I'm going to use the 5 or 6. Also, be precise. Don't use words I do not understand or do not know. If I cannot understand the meaning behind the word, I will not use it. But also finding the words that exactly communicate what I want my users to understand and take away from. And also listen to your audience. We as advertisers do this all the time, but when you're trying to appeal to people that are not just within your niche community, you need to understand how those people outside your community talk about your product or your service, and ultimately adopt your messaging to align with what they're saying, even if they're on the outside. And then the final one is be a human. We all want to share those interpersonal and connected experiences, and we all want to be understood. So if you keep that at the forefront of your mind when you communicate with someone, it makes any conversation pretty easy. So I did say earlier that I was a writer, and while I was doing my research with this, a part of my brain was asking myself, what if I only communicated in jargon at all times? Which kind of snowballed into this mock email of me using a lot of different jargon, but then it also came into this slam poetry piece. So if you're not familiar with slam poetry is just poetry that is supposed to be performed in front of an audience. So I had so much fun writing this that I wanted to share it with all of you today. So without further ado, here's Quality Assured, a safe for work slam poetry piece. Hey Andrew, we got a lead on our website? That's great. Yeah, I'll follow up with them right now. Dear prospective valued business partner, thank you for showing an interest in consumer-centric. It's great to e-meet you. When you need to align with consumers, look no further. Here at Consumer-Centric, all consumers are centric. We offer full-service advertising capabilities that focus on relevant digital channels only. Our core competencies of advertising penetrate the digital landscape by leveraging the latest SEO, CPC, and DSP strategic tactics to deliver cultivated brand messages in front of the right consumers that will ROI. Our BI team were the early adopters of AI and machine learning. Our robust reporting platform provides clients the mindset to own their data. Reporting cadences can be selected from the predetermined options of year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month, week over week, day over day, or hour over hour. Take a deep dive and drill down into consumer insights and discover key learnings that will pivot business decisions. Because that's right, big data informs big solutions. Our media analysts only know best practice. We align your brand's messaging with direct call to actions that is proven to convert users. If Google Ads isn't in your bandwidth, we monitor performance and optimize ads to gain traction amongst digital consumers. Whether your goals are to increase traffic to your website, slash cost per leads, or generate more likes per minute, we devise a roadmap that guarantees results by end of year. Still not sure on the buy-in? How about this? Attached is a deck of high-level overview case studies that showcase our agency's long-term success stories that address low-hanging fruit in a portable document format. That way, you can circle back with other stakeholders and continue this conversation offline. But at the end of the day, our ecosystem of like-minded individuals is awaiting your signed SOW. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to ping me and hope to touch base soon. Oh, I wonder what my colleague Alex wants. Hey Kai, can you QA this report for me when you get a chance? Hey Siri, what does QA mean? So here at Tailwind, we really like to de-jargon what is happening in the marketing and advertising industry for all of our clients and also prospective listeners. So every week we put out what we call a flash briefing called the Digital Minute, and you can listen to our weekly flash briefing on any of your favorite podcast streaming devices.